Yo, what up, everybody? It's me, Fitness65. Now, I'm just gonna redo part 2, and then I'm gonna be redoing part 3 of my top 25 WrestleMania matches. Now, I didn't like my other 2 videos that I did, so that's one of the reasons why I'm redoing this video. So, just gonna give you 2 videos, cause two quick videos on the rest of my top 25, because I'm about to head to work in a few minutes. So let's get started. And some of the matches I had before, I replaced them with other matches that I felt were a little bit better, but really it's still the same list. So let's get started with the rest of this list for part 2. We go to the number 18 matchup, which was from WrestleMania 11. It was between Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Now, people are going to be going, why would you put this matchup on here? Because it wasn't really that great of a matchup, but to me, it was still a good matchup. You had Shawn Michaels bumping like crazy for Diesel, making Diesel look like a monster. You had Diesel was able to hold his own in this matchup against Shawn Michaels. You had some pretty nice spots with Shawn Michaels and him doing some nice high-flying moves on Diesel on the outside, and it was just a very fun matchup. And also you had Shawn Michaels, I believe, working on Diesel's leg to sort of ground him down so Diesel wouldn't be doing a lot of the power moves on Shawn Michaels. And overall, it was still a very good matchup, and it did what it needed to do, and that was to sort of get Diesel over as a monster and sort of push Shawn Michaels into the push Shawn Michaels real big, and that's what this match did. And of course, you do have some botch spots in this matchup, and then you have the famous botch spot in this matchup with the power bomb, the jackknife power bomb, where I believe Diesel tried to power bomb Shawn Michaels the first time, but Shawn Michaels landed on his feet when he went on the ground, so they had to redo that jackknife powerbomb again. But overall, this was still a fun matchup, told a real good story, and it's probably one of my favorite WrestleMania matches of all time. Now, most people are gonna go, well, it wasn't that good of a matchup and nothing to write home about, but I still thought this was a good matchup for the time that this match got and the action that was going on in this matchup. It was still a very good matchup. Number 17 is the IC title matchup from WrestleMania 8. It was between Roddy Piper and Bret the Hitman Hart. This was a very good, technical, brawling type of matchup. You had Bret Hart use some nice technical wrestling in this matchup. You had Roddy Piper do a lot of brawling in this matchup. I mean, both of their styles just pretty much clashed in this matchup, and it was able to work well into this matchup. Told a real good story with Bret Hart doing whatever he needed to do to sort of become Intercontinental Champion again, and Piper doing whatever he needed to do to retain his title and to sort of beat a little bit of respect out of Bret Hart. If you watch the interview segment before this matchup, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And also, you saw Piper kind of teasing a heel turn, but he didn't. You saw Bret Hart get busted open with the ring bell, and you also saw the counter at the end with Bret Hart countering the sleeper hold into a pin, which you will see the same thing at Survivor Series 1996 with Bret Hart and Austin, and then from then on, I mean, that same finish would be used in many other matches. But still, this was a very good matchup. Probably Piper's best matchup that he's ever been in. Probably one of the best Intercontinental title matches, even though there's a Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage, and I believe there's another Intercontinental title match that I can't remember that was pretty good. But this was, the ladder matchup at WrestleMania 10. But overall, this was a very good matchup. I recommend anyone who watches WrestleMania 8, just watch this matchup and watch the main event, as those are the only 2 matches on that show to actually watch. And then maybe Tito Santana versus Shawn Michaels. But yeah, that was a very good matchup, and I enjoyed it. We then go on to number 16, which was from WrestleMania 5. I wanted to change this up, but I still wanted to keep this up there. It's between the Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude. This was a good matchup. You saw Ultimate Warrior do what he needed to do, did what he did, which was use his power moves and just basically destroy Rude because of the storyline wise, because he wanted to get his revenge on Ravishing Rick Rude. You saw Rude hit some nice moves, even a nice drop kick off the top rope, which looked pretty good. And overall, this was still a very good matchup. Probably one of the Ultimate Warrior's best matchups up to this point, because he was really not having that many good matches before this matchup. And or he was just having mediocre matches. But Rude was able to get a good match out of the Ultimate Warrior, and it also proved how underrated of a worker Ravishing Rick Rude was, because he was able to get something real good out of the Ultimate Warrior. And then of course the ending came when Ravishing Rick Rude hit the Rude Awakening on the Ultimate Warrior, and he pinned the Ultimate Warrior, and Bobby the Brain Heenan held the Ultimate Warrior's feet, and that would be the end of the matchup. And then of course the post match with Ultimate Warrior botching a Gorilla Press Slam on Bobby Heenan. He botched that, and Bobby Heenan ended up getting hurt. But overall, if you can get over that, this was still a good matchup. Did what it needed to do to get Ultimate Warrior over and sort of set the feud up between these two, which these two were feud throughout the most part of 1989, and even feud a little bit over the WWF title when Warrior won the title at WrestleMania 6. But overall, this was still a good matchup. It did what it needed to do, and it was still a fun matchup for what it was. And that's why it's at number 16. At number 15, it's from WrestleMania 20. Now, WrestleMania 20 was not really that good of a pay-per-view. I mean, it was okay. I would say it's a little bit in the middle. I mean, you had a good WWE title match between Eddie Guerrero and Kurt Angle. Then you had the triple threat matchup, which is going to be on this list. And you also had other matches like that, but mostly there wasn't any other match that sort of jumped up on you except this match. There wasn't any other matchup besides that jumped at your face to make this a good WrestleMania, and that's when it comes, and that's why this matchup at number 15 comes. That's Evolution versus The Rock and Mick Foley. Now the storyline with Evolution and Mick Foley was pretty good, and it led to this matchup, and it led to The Rock coming back, and it led to the tag team matchup. And this was a very good tag team matchup. You had Rock and Mick Foley. You had Rock and Ric Flair do some nice entertaining stuff in this matchup. You had Mick Foley do his usual offense. Evolution, Randy Orton and Batista shine and showed why they're the future in wrestling, why they were the future for years to come in the WWE. And it was just a fun matchup, and it did what it needed to do and served its purpose. And one of those entertaining matches that you would just enjoy and you would never get sick of. That's one of the reasons why I got it at number 14, as this was a very good matchup and I enjoyed it. I recommend watching that if you watch WrestleMania 20. Number 14 is a match that I had the Colons and Miz and Morrison, but I decided to change that out because it wasn't really on the WrestleMania card. This is between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. This was a very good matchup, had a lot of drama, had a lot of storytelling in it. You had Kurt Angle working over the leg of Shawn Michaels selling his ankle, and that sort of paid dividends to the end of the matchup. Then you had the end where Shawn Michaels sort of was fighting the ankle lock, but he had no choice but to tap, and that'd be the end of the matchup. Overall, very good matchup. I mean, these two had better matches after that, but I still think this is a good matchup, and it had a lot what you expect from these two in this matchup. That's one of the reasons why I got it at number 14. Number 13 is between Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle for the WWE title at WrestleMania 19. This was a very good matchup. Of course, you had Kurt Angle, who was injured in this matchup at the time, but still he was able to deliver a good performance. You also had some nice technical chain wrestling style type in this matchup. You had Brock Lesnar botch the shooting star press, and you had a lot of everything in this matchup that was sort of good if you cancel out all the negative, some of the negative in this matchup. But overall, this was a very good matchup. I enjoyed it, and I believe these two had better matches than this, but it was still a good matchup for what it was, and that's why it's at number 13. Number 12 is from WrestleMania 2 between the Dream Team against the British Bulldogs. This was a very good, entertaining matchup. I enjoyed it. Probably one of my favorite tag team title matches of all time. British Bulldogs showed up in this matchup. The Dream Team showed up, and they put on a really good, entertaining matchup at a good wrestling matchup. And that's why it's at number 12. Number 11 is from WrestleMania 11 between Razor Ramon and Jeff Jarrett. This was a good matchup that was flowing well. Showed how well these two had when it came to chemistry and how well these two worked together in the ring. The only thing that hurt this matchup was the DQ, but overall, if you can get over that, this matchup was just flowing well and probably one of the best matches on that card. Number 11, and yeah, it was one of the best matches on that card, and it just showed how underrated of a worker Razor Ramon was and how underrated Jeff Jarrett was. Anyhow, stay tuned for